All right, want to give up praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Kakwadash. Want to give double honors to the apostle, James as well. Peace, blessings, salutation to Yakim out there, pushing forth his truth and sincerity and humility and striving and not taking their hands off the plow. And pretty much, I'm trying to make this quick. It's pretty much about welfare and the destruction of the black family. Now, you have a lot of red pill channels. You got Kevin Samuels, and you have a lot of other channels that are rising up. Now, we all know the destruction of the so-called black family is in full effect, and I'm also been witnessing the destruction of the so-called Latino and Hispanic family, and the so-called West Indian, you so-called Jamaicans. Now, where I'm going to start. All right, it says how liberal politics destroyed black families. One thing you can read off top is Exodus, the first chapter, and there's other scriptures as well that goes into how the Lord loves the family structure. Children is the lineage of a man, and so forth. So this piece has been adapted from Crystal Wright new book, Conjure How Democrats Gave Us Crime, Sanctuary Cities, Abortion, Profiteering, and Racial Division. It's well known in how 1965 Daniel Patrick Moynihan, and I have some articles of him I'm going to read. Assistant Secretary of Labor to Democrat President Johnson warned that the black family was on the verge of a complete breakdown because of growing illegitimacy rates. In 1963, the out-of-wedlock birth rate for whites was 3%, and for blacks it was 23.6%. Moynihan was part of a generation of Democrats who cared about lifting blacks up into the ranks of equal opportunity with whites. Let me see, is this the right one? Yeah, this is the right one. And that was the lie that Democrats told our people. That's what the scripture says, you shall not trust the enemy. Trust not thy enemy. But it says, let me see where it was at. Yeah, back in the days before the Democrat Party became completely morally corrupt. Now, the Democrat Party and the Republican, it was against our people. It was never for our people. These so-called white people are not for our people. Why would your enemy want you to be equal or get a chance to get above them or compete against them? It's not going to happen. And that's what you so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanic, Native Americans, West Indians, you Native Americans fail to realize. So it's been a very big strategic plan to destroy you Israelites. In 1965, the Negro family, the case for national action, Moynihan observed that because more blacks were being born into unmarried homes, more blacks were becoming dependent on welfare to survive. Then as now, blacks represent only a small percent of the U.S. population, but a disproportionate percentage of people relying on public assistance at the center of this tangle of pathology, as Moynihan called it, was the weakness of the family structure among blacks. Once or twice removed, it will be found to be the principal source of most of the aberrant, inadequate, or antisocial behavior that did not establish but now serves to perpetuate the cycle of poverty and deprivation. The majority of black babies are born to single mothers, at the prescription for a life of poverty and crime. Ever since, the problem has only gotten worse. The majority of black babies are being born to single mothers, a prescription for a life of poverty and crime. And despite the warnings that have sounded off loudly for over half a century, Democrats have done nothing to stop blacks. Their most steadfast constituents have from having babies they can't take care of. This problem has perpetuated itself for generations, producing generational poverty among blacks. And that was the whole process. Civil rights, feminism. You had drugs, the prison system, rap music, and so forth. If black lives truly matter, as Democrats shout at the top of their lungs, why don't they promulgate policies that encourage blacks to get married before they have kids? Blacks voting overwhelmingly for Democrats over the past half century is quintessential definition of political suicide. But what's bad for blacks translates into a high rate of return on investment for Democrats. And that's the key thing because through the downfall of our nation, the nations and the devil, our enemy, has made millions and billions and stay in the power. And it's to the point now where pretty much our back is against the wall and we have no savior but Yahweh Shah. And it says marketing the no baby daddy syndrome to blacks has translated into votes, lots of votes, approaching 100% from blacks over the past half century. And the black family has been dismembered in the process, like the fetuses Planned Parenthood chops up to sell for profit. Democrats don't quit while they're ahead. No, the donkey party doubles down on evil. In his 1994 acceptance speech for the Democrat presidential nomination, Bill Clinton declared, "Governments don't raise children, parents do, and you should." Clinton meant to say, if you're white, I expect you to raise your kids, because Democrats have made it their priority to normalize the idea that federal government should be responsible for parenting blacks and their children. Neither Clinton nor any Democrat president since Johnson has done anything effective to ask black Americans as a race to take responsibility for raising our kids. No greater or more glaring example of liberals profiting politically off of black people's misery can be seen than the Democrats' refusal to address the legitimate birth rate spiraling out of control among blacks. More black babies are born out of wedlock today, 72%, than into married homes. That's dramatically worse than when Monihan initially raised the issue when it was 23%, thanks to 50 years of encouragement by the Democrat Party. So I just read an article about this. I think he said this back in 1963. It was 23%. What is it? What did he just say? Black babies being born out of wedlock, out of marriage. But now it's at 72%. And this is what the argue of Kevin Samuels is about. In other words, in America today, it is rare. Man, these so-called black women don't even think virginity is even sacred anymore. Yo, I just had a conversation with the B Dub, and my goodness, man. Pretty much these women believe that having sexual experience is very it heightens up their value. This shit is fucking insane. But it says, in other words, in America today, it is rare for black babies to be born to married parents. Black fathers are simply not part of the black family equation. Think about that. Black fathers simply, yeah. A few years ago, my mother tutored a 4-year-old black girl in pre-K at a Richmond, Virginia public school. It was part of an after-school program organized by her mom, by her church outreach ministry. One afternoon in February, my mother was explaining to the little girl the meaning. It goes off, it says Valentine's Day, but y'all get the point. Helping the child make a card for her mother, my mother told her that she was going to give Valentine's Day cards to special people like her husband and her children. The little girl looked at my mother in disbelief, asking, "You can have a husband?" Slightly shocked and a little taken aback, but my mother simply responded, "Yes." It's a sad state of affairs when the word husband is a foreign word to a little black girl. A few weeks later, around Easter, the little girl asked my mother again, "Miss Wright, you have a husband?" "Yes," my mother responded. "Husbands, friends, they're all the same." "That's the B-dub for you," replied the little girl. "No, they certainly are not all the same." But the little girl probably had gone home and asked her single mother what her husband was. Her mother had told her that. It's difficult to have a conversation with a 4-year-old about the importance of marriage. But the problem is that this little girl will grow up with her mother's message that husbands are just the same as boyfriends. Based on the statistics, she would likely follow her mother's bad example and have a baby out of wedlock. Hey, it's a scripture. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So is the daughter as the mother, roughly paraphrasing. Ezekiel 16:44. Behold, every one that uses proverb shall use this proverb against thee, saying, as is the mother, so is her daughter. You know? So that's pretty much the state of the so-called black woman and their kids. Because just like, hey, even going to the Willie Lynch letter, where Willie Lynch pretty much told the breakdown of the family and the breakdown of the nation of Israel. You put the man against the woman against the man, and the woman will break her offspring. The woman will make her daughter very strong, and the son very dependent and weak. And pretty much these women, when they have daughters, they pretty much turn their daughters out. It's really a big thing going on like that in Dominican Republic right now. There's a lot of wickedness going on amongst the Dominican Republic right now. But that's it on that. Let me see if I can go back to damn, what the hell was I? I think it was this one. Yeah. But the problem is that this little girl will grow up with her mother's message that husbands are just the same. Yeah, jump down. Women having babies without fathers isn't just a sign of the moral collapse of our culture. It's hazardous to the child when a child is born into a single parent home. Exactly. The chances of that child growing up in the poverty are much greater. According to the Brookings Institution study published in 2009, if a person graduates from high school, works a full-time job, and waits until 21 to get married and have children, his or her chance of succeeding in life and becoming a member of the middle class rises to 76%. If a person doesn't finish high school, doesn't marry, and has a baby before the age of 21, his or her chance of becoming poor soars to 74%. One of the anti-poverty solutions the Brookings study recommended was for the federal government to advocate policies that strengthen families. And one thing I can say about Richmond, Virginia, me personally, they got one of the worst B-dub women to me. Jersey's up there. New York too. I believe Richmond, Virginia's up there with those women. That's just my personal opinion. Because being around these women out here in Richmond and actually going to school, these bitches was very fucking manly, even at a young age. And nothing. I never heard that saying even about marriage or nothing. These women, the B dub, even their mothers, their grandmothers, they're all just angry. They're not married. I've seen a lot of these B dub women in their 60s and 50s and 40s, and they just go through men like drawers. But it says let me see, what was one of the anti-poverty solutions the Brookings study recommended was for the federal government to advocate policies that strengthen families, such as programs to reduce unplanned pregnancies for teens and 20-somethings. The Brookings researchers seem to have understood that the breakdown of the black family has been the main driver of the chronic wealth gap between whites and blacks over the past 5 decades, and that was the main purpose. This was all a strategic plan, going back to Exodus, the first chapter. The lack of intact families among blacks leads to the lack of education and jobs, which translates into higher rates of crime and government dependency among blacks. And it's kind of funny because even when experts rank the most miserable city in the U.S., and when you go to the inner cities, those inner cities are ran by single fucking mothers, and these are the same women that say men aren't shit. They tear down the so-called black men, and then they have little, young black boys, so-called black boys, and they grow up to be the same thing that they claim that they hate. So it's a revolving door, and it's a continuing cycle. And like I said, you go into the inner cities, those is no family structure there. There's no dad there. It's just a bunch of men going in and out of the front door, out the back door, and even out of a fucking window. Because this woman have a bunch, like 5 boys that are just headstrong, running dudes out the house. Man, it's wicked, man. It's sickening. But it says you don't have to be a neurosurgeon to see that a child born to a married teenage mother isn't going to have a rosy future in life. Exactly, because women are, man. To beat the someone be tell like this. I'm gonna be blunt with it. The so-called black woman has destroyed the nation because they took in league with Esau, going back to even to the garden with Eve. They bit that apple all over again. You know, Esau was subtle with Eve, and you see the benefits from it, and that's why when you go into the inner cities, the so-called black woman has power, and even when these so-called black women leave and with their PhD, these black women are all in these suburbs. Like again, these so-called black women, they get these jobs, and they only think about their goddamn self. You know, men don't think about their self. Men, you know, it get to a point when men get to a certain age and they start thinking about unity, because they know that they need. Because at the end of the day, we don't, as men, we don't get aid from the fucking government. Our aid comes from unity. Ultimately, you know, when a man turns back to his real nationality and he understands the power of unity between men, his neighbor, which are Israelites. But let me, yeah. It says the conclusions of the Brookings research are obvious, but Democrats continue to ignore the plain truth. Back in 1965, Moynihan was pelted with virulent criticisms for telling the truth about Black America. Things have only gotten worse since then. And again, you, hey man, hey, world star, you know, just go, just go outside, you know. The evidence is in plain sight. Things have gotten worse since this was the first plan was to ignite the situation. Now I got a couple scriptures I'm gonna just bring forth, but it says Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Because again, the man is supposed to institute direction and sternness and firmness into the child. Like let me see, head of man is Christ. This is the order. Bear with me one moment. It says, but I, 1 Corinthians 11:3, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Yahweh Shah, and the head of the woman, is the man, and the head of Yahweh Shah is Yahweh. So that's the order of things. The man, Yahweh Shah, the man, and the woman, and then the children. And once the man is in order, then the woman should be in order, and the woman is going to pretty much teach her children about the goodness of her husband and the law and about her nation. I'm telling you something, man. A woman can destroy a fucking child, man, and I've seen it. It's something about the words of a fucking woman that can destroy a child. I'm telling you. Proverbs 29:15, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. And that's a thing. That's a big thing that's going on. These women don't know how to raise children. It needs a father present to be there. Let me see. It's another scripture. Man and woman that agree. Ecclesiasticus 25:1. And three things I was beautified and stood up between both before Yahweh and men. The unity of brethren, that is destroyed because of the fucking black woman. The love of neighbors, and a man and a wife that agree together. But that's, again, you don't see that. Even amongst, it's getting big, even amongst so-called Latinos as well. I've been seeing, me living here in Richmond, Virginia, I've been seeing a lot of dykes, so-called Latino Hispanic dykes that are brewing up. A lot of homosexuality and a lot of single mothers are being created amongst so-called Latinos and Hispanics as well. At one time, that was very rare to see that, but now is pretty much becoming common. Um, Done with that. Proverbs 23:13, withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Now, who's going to enact on that? I'm gonna tell you something too. When there's a strong male presence there, kids fall in line. And one thing about men tell the truth, and men will tell you the reality. And seeing that these women are so fucking, just so going. Like I said, man, read that Willie Lynch, and it tells you how they broke the mind of a woman. Women are scared. They're timid. They're fearful. That they have so much doubt. Hey, the women of Israel are fucking weak, man. And I can say that, man. They're fucking weak, and that's what they when they had these kids. That's what they put in their kids: weakness and emotion. Deuteronomy 6:7, and thou shalt teach them diligent to thy children, and meaneth the law. Let me see. Matter of fact, what's that? Verse 4 here. Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord, and thou shalt love thy Lord thy power with all thine heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and thou shalt rise up. And that's the commandments, the law, the statutes, and even the history of Israel. Because these so-called black boys, they don't know nothing. All they know is that they think they're inferior, and they think they're weak, and they think they gotta hate each other, and they think they gotta be gangbangers. And again, these kids aren't really being taught nothing, you know. Proverbs 13:24. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. And it's a goddamn shame. All you always only time. Salaki, let me slow down. Only thing you really hear is these rappers talking about something. They hate their father, but they love their goddamn mother. There's no balance, and that's what they always have promote. They promote on TV. Jake hating their fathers, fighting their fathers, and have no respect for their fathers. But then they uplift the goddamn women, their mothers. Proverbs 29:17. Correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yea, he shall give delight unto thy soul. Proverbs 19:18. Chasten thy son while there is hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. Leviticus 19:29. This is the one I'm going to close with. Because pretty much our women are pretty much prostitutes and whores to Esau, the system. And the system is pretty much Esau being the pimp over our women. And when our women get out of line, they basically slap the shit out of them, beat the hell out of them, and they punish them. And, our women, again, if our women were even stepping up and seeing that this was all bullshit, Esau will come up with another strategy to pretty much beat our women down with their philosophies and their destructive ways and their destructive decrees. But Leviticus 19:29 said, "Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore," and that's what our women are. They're whores to the so-called white man. This whole system, the whole infrastructure. Our women are against their own men, and they uplift Esau. And what does it say? Lest the land fall to whoredom and the land become full of wickedness. And when you go into those inner cities, go to Chicago, go to New York, Jersey, Philly, New York, I said New York, Bmore, shit, DC, Richmond, Charlotte, North Carolina, Greensboro, the whole 85, to Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Kingston, San Juan, Santo Domingo, Mexico, full of whoredom, wickedness. You know why? Because Esau has taken our women, and our women are prostitutes and whores to this system. Texas, Dallas, Jackson, Memphis, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. Oh, should need I say more? Wherever our people are, 9 times out of 10, their household is ran by women. And this is what you see: what is it? 5 decades, 5 decades of moral decay and destruction of the so-called Black, Latino, Hispanic family. And I'm gonna end it with that. Lord willing, I will edify. Shalom.